Y'all, there are 170 levels worth of gear in Wizard101, and with so many new people playing for the first time because of console, and even tons of people returning, I thought it was time to make a video on all the gear worth farming at every level on this game. Now, we're going to be talking about gear templates that you do not have to pay crowns for. It's just fully farmed in the game. And also, a lot of what we're going to be talking about was added just in the past year. So if you haven't played in a while, this video will probably save you a lot of pain. Starting right off with the first level that you should consider farming for anything, in my opinion, level 30. And why is that? Because at level 30, you unlock Aquila and Mount Olympus, the level 30 dungeon. And while there's a lot of bosses that you could essentially farm for, in my opinion, the reason to do this dungeon is just for the one-time guaranteed drop, and that is the Skyrim Hasta. If you go through the entire dungeon, the second to last boss, Ares, is guaranteed to drop you a 10% damage wand that gives you a power pip. Now, you don't get wands that give you power pips till level 40. You don't get wands that give you damage till way later in the game. This is beyond worth it simply because it's a guaranteed drop. However, this dungeon, Mount Olympus, also features a lot of level 30 gear that you could get that gives you stuff like universal res. Now, this area is also a great place to get accustomed to the way gear works now in 2025. They have a huge pity system that they've basically done, and Aquila is actually the most recent world to get this pity system. If you keep defeating the final boss of Mount Olympus, eventually you'll get a badge. Now, this badge is special because one, it'll actually give you school-specific Aquila spell elements, which can unlock a really cool spell for you. But also, once you get the badge, for the reagents that you'll pretty much easily get spammed at you for doing this dungeon Olympian dust, you can actually craft the exact pieces of gear that you want. Now, is it worth running Zeus, for example, 35 times just to, like, you know, basically craft everything? I don't really think so. But if you have like a bunch of people to farm with and you don't mind farming, there's an easy way to guarantee drops. You can also just get these to drop naturally from fighting Zeus. So at level 30, by running this dungeon once, you get a massive boost to your power. And if you feel like it, you could run this 35 times, get extra spellments, get guaranteed all the gear from this dungeon. At level 30, this dungeon and at least the wand are must-have items that everyone should consider doing. Now, while level 30 Mount Olympus gear is a massive power upgrade, especially the wand, the real craziness actually starts at level 50. Now, a lot of people don't know about this because they played the game a long time ago and they think that the level 50 gear is the stuff that you get at the end of the Malistaire dungeon that doesn't actually give any remarkable stats. But they've actually done a massive revamp of this gear, and now if you actually go out of your way to craft this stuff, you can get gear that gives you universal res on whatever school you're on. You could even get wands that are better than the Sky Iron Hasta, and all this gear, in my opinion, is really good because of the item card, right? You have hats that give item card blades for your school and item card bubbles for your school, whichever one you're feeling. And my personal favorite, you have amulets at level 50 that you can actually craft, and they give you not one, but two different item card blades for your school, or if you're bound to get elemental blade. Now, you're probably wondering, where do you farm for this gear? How do you get the claw reagent that you actually need to craft all of this? And the answer, honestly, is super simple. If you want the hat, robe, boots, or wand, you basically farm Malistaire. He could either literally drop you the gear so you don't need to craft it, or you can get enough of the tier 2 things that he drops, which are very easy drops. And if you get enough spell swords, for example, then you can basically make any of these. So, like, it doesn't matter what school spell sword you get, those are tier 2 drops. You get a lot of them in claws and lava lilies. You could make the tier 1 wand for any school. Now, the Onis in the exact same dungeon that you do for Malistaire drop the Athame and the ring, and the amulet is dropped by Vesta, which is some weird boss that I want to say is in the forum. I think that Vesta boss is a side boss, so you might have to pick up a side quest for it. I just look up the wiki, but the big TLDR is there is gear worth farming the final dungeon of Arc 1 for. You basically want these reagents and any tier 2 wand while getting also the tier 1 drops, so you could basically get full sets of this. This will literally set you up for all of Celestia and even further. Now, after level 50, there is a really weirdly massive power upgrade that also happens at level 60. This is a new atavistic set that now drops in Celestia. This is also a very recent set. Now, at level 60, right, a lot of people think that the best gear is Waterworks, right? That's the side dungeon that drops at level 60, drops amazing gear that you could honestly use probably till level 100 maybe even. And while that gear is really awesome, you do have to have access to Crab Alley to do it. It's honestly a pretty hard dungeon that you would have to get lucky enough to get the drop from. There's no pity system. Not only is some of this atavistic gear actually better than Waterworks gear, it has a very nice pity system. So the way that this works is slightly different than Dragonspire. Right, in Dragonspire, you farm a certain boss, hope to get the tier 1 gear, but you're guaranteed to get a bunch of reagents and tier 2 gear over time to make the gear. This is a little different. Every single piece of gear that you can craft at Gearwise, the crafter in Celestia base camp, is badge locked. And in order to actually craft any of this, you need to get a bunch of shark tooths, which is, I guess, Celestia's pity reagent. You'll accumulate these a ton as long as you farm the bosses for these badges. But as far as these actual badges, right? 5 bosses that have new, like, badges tied to them, you do have to defeat them quite a bit. For example, Big Salgio, the battle at the very end of the Solarium, that's like a whole dungeon. You have to defeat him 40 times. But if you do and get the badge for it, you can craft the item that's associated with him. Mithraea is the person at the very end of Trial of Spheres, another pretty decent dungeon. To do it 45 times on a level 60 is honestly asking a lot. That being said, let's say you get that Salgio badge, right? The wands that you can make are very good. It's like crit, block, pierce, and universal damage. And this is side by side of like the Waterworks robe compared to the new atavistic set. You'll notice some things, right? Like, yes, there is like definitely better stats on the Waterworks side of things in some ways, but small little changes like the accuracy that you get on the atavistic robe and the pierce that you get, these are things that are actually going to make up a lot of the time for the stats that you end up giving up by not running Waterworks. This is also arguably the first time you can get resist on an amulet, so this set does unlock quite a bit. My favorite pieces personally are the wand and the robe and the amulet. The Athame and ring are also very high damage for level 60. While yes, if you're lucky enough to get the right item in the bazaar, yes, you could probably get something comparable to this. But think about it, right? A lot of people, they're probably watching this on console, where not a lot of people have gotten gear to sell to the bazaar yet. So in my opinion, while there's a lot of people farming for these badges, this is a great time to get these badges with other people so you save a lot of time. Basically guarantee you get all the reagents in the meantime to craft all of this really good level 60 gear. Now after level 60, at level 100, you have 2 really good options. One, a lot of people probably already know this. You can farm Darkmoor and you can get some really good Darkmoor gear. There's no pity system with this. You have to run up this pretty hard dungeon with other people ideally, and there are really good drops here, including an Athame from the first fight and a hat, wand, boots, and robe that are all super big game changers at this level. Right, you're looking at really high damage, really high resist gear that in my opinion everybody's gonna want at level 100. This will carry you all the way into Arc 4. But just like Waterworks versus atavistic gear, there is one major trade-off with Darkmoor gear. You could kind of indefinitely farm Darkmoor and never actually get the drop that you want. There's no pity system. There's no way to craft the gear by accumulating resources over time. And so your other option, if you don't like that trade-off, is to talk to this NPC right here in the Sardonyx. You obviously have to have this area unlocked. You kind of get this around level 90 something, but she gives you all the new updated Morganthe gear. Now this gear is also very good. If you get the right combination of this gear with Darkmoor gear, you are set for like 70 levels in my opinion. Now to my knowledge, there's no badge requirements. You don't have to farm a boss like 45 times to get a badge just to unlock this. And the pity reagent, it does drop quite readily throughout the world. However, to make the best gear, you need to get the pity reagent, you need to collect comet tails from the ground, and you have to get 9 different tier 2 robes, 9 different tier 2 hats. Now it kind of tells you where to farm these. For example, like the hat and the robe, it kind of tells you to farm the galleries and just get like tier 2 drops, and then you can craft the one that you want. You're gonna want to farm the shadow tree for the wands, galleries for the hat, robe, and boots, and Morganthe for the amulet, the Athame, and the ring essentially. And what do I like about some of this gear? The wands, for example, give an obscene amount of damage. Like for the myth one, 17 damage and 5 pierce for myth. I think that's crazy. You also get really high resist amulets, which I would argue are very good for tanky school. And while the Athame from Darkmoor Darkmoor is definitely better. The ring, I would argue, is the best in the game at level 100 if you use the crafter here. Just for a side-by-side, in case y'all don't realize how crazy this gear is, I have the Malistaire boots that I got from Darkmoor, meaning I had to get lucky enough to get the Storm boots on this level 100 Storm. But let's say that I'd actually either gotten lucky enough to get the Mouse Shoes of Ingenuity to drop, or if I crafted it using a bunch of tier 2 gallery boots, the boots that I could actually make are really, really good. They same resist, same damage, but a little bit more HP, and you even get extra stats like Pierce and Crit. You could choose between pip chance or accuracy with this setup specifically, depending on which one you want to craft, right? There's like a side grade that you could kind of do. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter which one you do. If it's going to save you the time of farming Darkmoor, I think it could really be worth it. Now, in my honest opinion, if you combine the right pieces of level 100 Darkmoor gear with level 100 like gear that you could basically get from the new Morgant gear set, I honestly think you don't have to farm for main storyline gear until the arc all the way after that, arc 4. Meaning, from literally level 100 to, I would argue, as early as level 140, you don't even need to farm for gear. But once you get to this arc, there's a whole new pity system that's a little bit weirder. So for Lemuria and Novus, the way they do it, right, you basically need to, the only way to get the gear, in my opinion, like easily, is to get a bunch of tier 2 gear and to get all the ground loot and dropped reagents that are associated with the world. So for example, right, polygons, you can pick them up from the ground in Novus, and pixels, you can basically get them dropped from bosses very, very regularly. And then for each of these tier 2 pieces of masterpiece gear, you basically want to farm the appropriate boss. For example, the robe, it basically drops from the final boss, which is like a very annoying, like, you know, polymorph fight. Now in arc 4, right, both Lemuria and Novus have this little tier 2 gear with ground reagents and, you know, like dropped reagents like combo going on. In my opinion, this is very, very frustrating, but it is a meaningful upgrade to level 100 gear for sure. But in my opinion, if you're gonna wait until arc 4 anyways, and you actually have a lot of Darkmoor gear and Morgant gear, the best pity system in this entire arc is all the way after those two worlds in Walrus. And y'all, Walrus is one of the greatest things that they've ever done, in my opinion. Once you make it here, you're scot-free, but it is at level 170. Keep that in mind. But this, in my opinion, is really the way pity systems should work, and this is just very convenient, right? The big reagent that you're gonna want to get is Dream Water. This drops from mobs all over the world, and the way to make all of this gear is just to get a bunch of Dream Water, no tier 2 gear, keep this in mind, and just defeat certain bosses enough times to get the badge that lets you, like, you know, craft this. Why do I think Walrus is way better in every single way? Well, you don't need tier 2 gear, and yes, you do need to farm a few badges, so I guess that's the trade-off. The bosses that you farm to get these badges, they don't just unlock gear, they also unlock jewels. So for example, the same boss that, you know, you basically farm a bunch to get the badge to craft like a Thames, they'll also like have that badge will also unlock different jewels as well. And what I really like about this is jewels and pins and stuff that you'll end up affixing and needing a lot down the line. Right, they're very cheap. It's like a little bit of Dream Water for reference, 12 Dream Water. If you do the optimal method, which is farming Nightmare with people that have an Incendiate hat, if you were to go that far, this is a very, very easy thing to do. You could probably get this in like 3 rounds of fighting, and honestly, during double reagent benefit, if you're a member, like, you could get so many of these that you're basically stacked on jewels for the foreseeable future. So while yes, you could like look up the wiki on which boss to get tier 2 gear in from in Novus and Lemuria, you could do that. I think it's worth waiting if you have the right gear all the way to Walrus, because the pity system is so much better. No tier 2 gear, and the reagent that drops in this world helps you get gear and jewels and pins. Y'all, hopefully this video was helpful. There isn't, as I said earlier in the video, that much gear that you actually need to farm for, but farming at the right times, it does save you a lot of pain. I'm sure there's a lot of new console players and people coming back because of all the hype around Wiz recently. I'm sure they don't know about all these pity systems and just, you know, how to get the gear in a meaningful amount of time instead of wasting a ton of time doing something that's not productive. But yes, the levels that you really want to focus on farming at are 30, 50, 60, 100, and in my opinion, 170 after all that. Let me know if y'all have any questions about this or any ideas about other stuff that's helpful for all the people that are playing the game again for the first time. I want to do nothing but help, so let me know in the comments. Drop a like if y'all enjoyed. Leave a sub review, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah, y'all.